Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. It's exactly 3 o'clock, so we are just going live. I am Amy Camper-Stewart from Meteor, and with me we have Alexandra. You want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Alexandra Hill from Silver Lining.
So we're going to wait just a couple of minutes to let people log on. Getting onto the technology platform is not always easy as Zoom tries to make it. But we're all glad that you are here. I am sitting in Brooklyn, where unfortunately it's like another yucky rainy day. But I'd love to know where all of you are at, and hopefully you have some sunshine from wherever you're at. So if you're here, go ahead, pop into the chat box and tell us, where are you sitting and do you have sunshine? Alexandra, where are you?
I'm telling you, I'm not sitting in sunshine, unfortunately. I'm in Toronto, and it is pouring of rain outside. The weather has been dismal the last few days here.
Oh, yucky. I know. We had such a yucky holiday weekend.
I know.
It's a good holiday weekend, but yucky weather.
Definitely, definitely.
I see Dorit is here. Oh, Dorit's in my office. So yeah, she's in New York with me with no sunshine. Such a shame. Did you do anything fun this weekend for the 3 days? Did you have 3 days off?
No, it's because we're in Canada, so our long weekend was actually last weekend. Yeah, and we just spent like the whole weekend with friends, really. So we were at, a friend's cottage for one of the days. That was sort of the day to open up cottages, and just spent a lot of time outside. The weather was fantastic here last weekend, so it was sort of like a really good introduction into summer's just around the corner.
Yeah.
And I was really just hanging out with friends and like getting excited about being able to sit on a patio and sit in the backyard with the kids, and the warm weather's here. What about you, Mamie? What did you get up to last weekend? Because you celebrated just this past weekend.
Yes, just this past weekend. We went up to Northampton, Massachusetts and visited some friends.
Nice.
So got out of New York City, got to hang out in this small town area. It was really nice.
Wonderful.
I see Holly has joined us from Edmonton, and it's sunny, 27 degrees Celsius. I can't do the math to turn that to Fahrenheit, but I know that that's warm.
That's warm.
Way warmer than we are here.
Yeah, that's nice.
Which is so nice. Yeah, we needed that this weekend. My kids were really disappointed because we usually go to like a creek to go swimming, and it was just too cold to do that.
No. So let me ask you this thing, Mimi. Did you actually take the 3 days off, or did you squish in any work as a business owner yourself this weekend?
Oh, I was pretty good. I mostly took the weekend off, but here's a little preview for everybody. We are writing a book. So my colleague Tai Tsao and I are co-authoring a book on effective meetings, and we are just getting into the editing phase. So I did sneak off for a couple of hours and do some book editing. It was fun stuff, though.
Good. Yeah, good stuff. Now, do you have a support network that's okay with you sneaking off? And how does that work within your family life?
I do. My husband does a ton of the family workload. He takes our kids to school. He coordinates dinner. So he does a lot of the family work so that I can focus on growing my business. And I spent most of the weekend with the kids, we all as a family, but they decided to go for a walk. And I said, is it okay if I hop out of this one? You guys all go for a walk to the playground, have fun, and I'm going to stay back and do some work. And, I always check in with them, make sure it's okay first.
Right. That's fantastic. You're lucky to have such a supportive husband.
Oh, yes, I know. And he knows it too.
Good. You're always making sure to tell him.
Of course.
Great.
So I'm saying it's 3:04, so I'm thinking we should probably get started because we have a lot of fun stuff to get through today.
I know there's a lot of content. It's I'm looking forward to this next hour. So I'll just say welcome to SLAPschool, everybody. We're super excited to have everybody here today. So there's quite a few people here, and it's going to be a great hour. So there's a mix of people who are current Slapsters, as well as people who are new to the Silver Lining community. So what I think I'll do for the benefit of everyone joining us today is I'll just quickly introduce myself and explain a little bit about what having a SLAP is. Just for some logistics, we've got everyone muted right now, certainly not because we don't want to hear from you, but because if there's, a lot of background noise, we want to eliminate that. But as soon as Mimi starts to share, her wisdom on this topic with us, we would love to hear from you. We want to hear your questions. We want to hear your thoughts. So as Mimi said in the beginning, there is a chat function right on the right side of your screen. So make sure to type in every question that you have or thoughts, or and we'll make sure, even if we don't get to the questions during the webinar, we'll make sure to email you the responses to those questions. So my name is Alexandra Hill, and I'm the Director of SLAP Happiness here at Silver Lining. And yes, that is truly the greatest title that I've ever had. And yes, it actually does make me smile every single time that I say it. And my job here at Silver Lining, it's really about, it's about support. And I'm charged with making sure that our clients are receiving the support necessary to make sure that they're actually hitting their goals that they set for themselves every year. And for everyone else who's not yet slapping, you know, my job is kind of the same. It's really to offer support and to work with them to figure out the best way forward for them as business owners to create, you know, the life that they want, but also a business that, you know, that they desire. So sometimes that's about helping them get into the SLAP program, you know, and often it's about connecting them with someone else in our network, someone else who can support them in a way that they need the support that we can't help them with. So at the end of the day, really our larger mission here at Silver Lining is really about helping small business owners to grow their businesses, really so they can give back to their communities by, you know, providing jobs, creating opportunities, and providing impact, you know, positively impacting the local economy. And that's really what we're passionate about here at Silver Lining, and it's really what drives us. So for those of you who don't know what SLAP stands for, it's a little bit of a cheeky acronym, which is, you know, part of what, you know, our day-to-day lives at Silver Lining. There's always a little bit of cheekiness here, which is part of the reason I love working here. It stands for Silver Lining Action Plan, the action being, you know, a really important word in that. And most business owners who join our community have been in business for at least 2 years, are making over 100 grand in revenue, and they're really, really ready to get really serious about growing their business. So often these business owners get caught in what we call the cash flow capacity catch-22 moment in their business, where you're really working very, very hard on a daily business, you know, perhaps putting many, many hours. And I remember this as, you know, I own many small businesses myself before joining the Silver Lining team. So I remember these days putting in many, many hours every day, you know, 6 or 7 days a week. And, you know, often having a successful business, but really not having the time or understanding how to put the time into actually growing the business. Often people, you know, come into our program, they're feeling very overwhelmed by the day-to-day activities of running their business. And they recognize that they do need support getting organized and, you know, getting really strategic about how they're going to go about growing their business. So when you get a SLAP, you're forced to sort of stop and think deeply about your goals, about your business model, you know, the actions that you're taking every day, and the results that you're like actually getting versus the results that you would like to achieve. So often that gap is quite a big one. You know, and this happens, we help you understand your business model, you know, what you actually sell and who do you actually sell it to. You know, we help you to identify who is your ideal client, so you can be strategic about how you spend each and every marketing dollar that you put out there to get the clients into your business. You know, you're going to do a financial analysis of your business and come up with an attainable yet challenging financial goal that you can create this whole action plan around to give you the greatest chance of actually succeeding and attaining the goal that you do set for yourself. And then really most importantly is about getting into execution. And that's sort of where the magic of being in the Silver Lining community is. The magic of belonging is that you receive support and accountability on a weekly basis to help keep you accountable to the plan that you've created, to keep you on track, and really to like pull you back when you start, you know, when you get too busy or you start to get off track or things start to fall apart. So there's 5 different ways that we support you here at Silver Lining. One of the ways is through SLAP Center. It's our online tool or platform, and that's where you build your action plan. That's where you record your sales. That's where you have weekly reflections, you know, what's working, what's not working. SLAP Center also houses, you know, thousands of videos offering practical advice on really every business topic that you can imagine. The second way that we support you is with our SLAP assistants. These are real life people, you know, that you can speak with, you know, every week or every day if you like, who are really your first points of contact for all of your needs. They're your cheerleaders as well as the team that is really in the background, closely monitoring your success in our program. And the third way is with our SLAP experts. You know, our experts have 20 plus years of experience in the business world, either as business owners, small business owners themselves, or you know, running in leadership roles, running other companies. And you speak with our experts on either a weekly or a monthly basis, and you get support, ideas, grounding, coaching, and inspiration. And the fourth way is through SLAP World, which is our community. You know, being involved in our world means having access to a vast network of serious business owners. And the fifth way, of course, is through education. So SLAPschool, which is, you know, what brings us all here today. It's our pleasure to provide you with as much useful content and access to, you know, experts like Mamie on a weekly basis in SLAPschool. So today our guest speaker and expert is Mamie Camphor-Stewart. She is the founder and CEO of Meteor and is also a current SLAP participant. She began Meteor to help others optimize their time and cultivate their teams to achieve results. She has led meeting effectiveness workshops for all sorts of amazing leaders, you know, at UpCon, at the Weapon of Mass Creation Conference, and for numerous public and private organizations. And Mimi has been featured in Forbes, Inc.com, PC Magazine, Business Collective, and was a keynote speaker at the Lean Startup Week in 2016. So I know that she's going to give us a lot of really amazing content, and I'm, you know, just as excited to actually sit and listen to what she's going to be teaching us about today. And the topic today is how poor meeting practices sabotage your organization's success. So everybody sit back, enjoy the next sort of 45 minutes with Mimi. Take it away, Mimi.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you, Alexandra, for the introduction. I'm going to switch over and share my screen now. So just give me 1 second to get that going. And I want to make sure I have the chat box pulled up so I can see questions as they come in, because I would love to address them. All right. So yes, today, how poor meeting practices sabotage your organization's success. So we just heard a little bit from Alexandra about silver lining. And I'm going to start, before we get going into the content, to tell you a little bit about Meteor and a little bit about myself. So Meteor is about 3 years old, 3.5 years old, and we do a couple of different things to help teams really create strong, healthy cultures so that they can have effective meetings, they can have effective collaboration, because when it comes down to it, your people are your most important asset in your organization. For many, many, many businesses and many organizations, nonprofits, government, doesn't really matter. Your people are what make it all happen, and you need to provide your people with the training and the support and the technology and the tools to make the most of their time and their energy and their brain power. So with Meteor, we do 3 different things. We have our mobile and web apps. So we're going to talk about them, not today, but some of the couple webinars upcoming. We'll give you a little sneak peek, but if you're interested in them, you can check them out on our website. So we have our web and mobile apps that help teams collaborate effectively and apply best practices for managing effective meetings, working from a shared task plan, developing a knowledge center so you can find the information you need when you need it. All of those elements of collaboration that can really support effective outcomes. We also do skill building activities like this one. So I lead a bunch of webinars, workshops, speak at conferences. We write on this topic. We have a great blog. So that's another place where you can go and find all kinds of content around creating effective teams. And then the last one is our Thriving Teams program. And this is a brand new program. We're really excited. I'm super excited to be kicking this off in June, where we are going to work really closely with teams, similar to how SLAP works with its SLAPsters. So every week you'll meet with one of our Thriving Teams specialists, one of your coaches through Thriving Teams, and we will walk you through all of the steps as a team to create a high-performing culture where your people thrive, where you accomplish results, and you build all the fundamentals around decision-making, effective meetings, working from a shared task plan, creating team values and shared goals, all those things that you really need, and we get to be your partner in doing that. So that's a little bit about Meteor. And now a little bit about myself. So I'm Amy. I'm the founder and CEO of Meteor, and I come from a family business, which is where I learned a lot of the practices that I am sharing with you today. So my first job was in my family business. And when I left that domain and I went and worked, I say, quote, out in the real world, I discovered that not everybody knew how to run a good meeting, and not everybody knew how to kind of collaborate and work from a task plan and do a lot of things that I thought were very obvious, but actually weren't. So I started Meteor so that I could take these practices that I had learned and bring them out to the world, because there's no reason why we should all sit through really frustrating, terrible meetings. And when you really dig into it, and which is what we're going to do in just a minute, you'll learn that meetings themselves are not, they're a problem that goes far beyond just the time you spend in that meeting. So let's jump over now and talk about today's content. So we're going to focus on 3 learning objectives. The first is about why meetings are so important. And why are meetings the thing that are sabotaging your success? When there's so much going on in an organization, there's a relationship between meetings, your company culture, productivity, and the success that you're having. So we're going to kind of share and go through that loop and how that's an important connection to make. The second is that we'll do some tips and takeaways. So I want to make sure that when you leave today, you know how to use the desired outcome to increase your meeting effectiveness. This is the #1 practice that I recommend to anybody who is worried about their meetings and creating meeting effectiveness. Desired outcome, #1 thing, and we're going to go over it today. And then the last one is we're going to talk about introducing change and how to get others involved so that you can make a case for better meetings and you won't be the only one in your organization who's trying to create this new culture change. Now, as we're going, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat. I will address some of them as we go, and others we're going to save for the end. And if we don't get to anything during that final Q&A, we'll make sure we follow up with an email. All right, so meetings are everywhere in our organizations. This is some research that was done by some other organizations. And what it basically said was that for most white-collar work, meetings are happening everywhere. They happen whether you're the newest employee, whether you're the CEO, whether you're anywhere in between, no matter what department you're in, meetings are everywhere. And that on average, we're spending about we're going to about 62 meetings a month. That comes out to on average about 24 hours in a week in meetings. And about 1/3 of those are considered unproductive, which is really key, that 1/3 of the meetings we attend are considered to be unproductive. And when you have 9 people attending each meeting, that is a lot of people sitting in unproductive meetings for a lot of time. Now, in smaller organizations, you might only have 9 people in your whole business. So this research includes, huge organizations with thousands of employees. But we can kind of still apply this to what we know, right? We're all sitting in busy meetings, no matter what size our organization is. And a lot of us have sat through really, really boring meetings where you feel like nothing's getting done, all of that. So it might not be quite to this scale, but we know that meetings are a problem. Now, Bob Hothier, who is the Director of Partners and Leadership and a former GE executive, said the strongest message about how you want your culture to perform is embedded in how you conduct your meetings. And what he meant when he said this was that there's a connection between how you want your organization to perform, what you value, and that's kind of expresses your culture, and how your meetings happen. So we're going to dig into this a little bit more deeply. So first, what is culture? So culture is the beliefs and behaviors that direct people and to how they act and interact. This is what sets people's expectations, right? Simply put, it's kind of how we do things around here. So culture impacts how people feel. It's, whether they feel respected and valued, whether you have a culture of go-getters or finger pointers, and whatever the culture has deemed to be appropriate behavior, that's how people are going to act. And they look for cues in their environment to tell them, how do I behave? So for example, I'll give you a little story. Not too long ago, I was in a meeting with one of my clients, and I saw the dynamic in the room where there were a few of the employees who were really pushing back hard on their boss. And I was surprised because I sit in a lot of meetings, and that's not typically what I see. Usually people are very deferential to their boss. But in this case, the team members were really pushing back on what the boss was recommending, and for good reason. They were bringing lots of good perspectives and good data. They're playing devil's advocate, and they're saying, what about this? I'm worried that this is going to be a big problem, and not in a way that was disrespectful, but in a way that was actually very helpful. And after the decision was made, and it wasn't what the boss initially had said he wanted, I asked one of the team members afterwards, and I said, that was really fascinating to watch. Tell me about how this works. And his response was, well, this is just how, this is what's expected. This is how we do things around here. And I was like, that's super cool. You've built a culture. This team has built a culture in which arguing with the boss and pushing back is really welcomed. So that's how culture can really comes to life, right? And all of the people, when they have a new employee who walks into that team and they sit down, my guess is they're going to have a similar reaction to what I had, which is, whoa, this is not what it was like in my old organization. And they'll take a cue and they'll see, oh, this is how people act here. This is what's expected of me. And so they too, over time, will become comfortable with the idea that they should be arguing with the boss. They should be presenting alternatives and questioning decisions. So culture appears in meetings in lots of different ways, right? So here's a list, and we're going to go through all of these. If you have questions about how any of these impact your meetings, please pop them in the chat box. But I'm going to walk through them. So first, about routines. Right? Routines are one element of culture. Right? This is the process that people go through. And when you think about a meeting, what we're really talking about is the routine of preparing an agenda, sending it out 24 hours in advance, doing those steps that everybody knows. This is part of how we do things. We always send an agenda. An agenda always looks like this, right? It always gets sent at this time before the meeting. Those are some of the routines that build your culture of meetings. The second is rituals. So starting your meeting with a check-in, for example, always, closing with a wrap-up, having particular things that you do at certain times that are they're not routines, but they're rituals. They're moments together with a group that kind of make that special in a way. So starting with a check-in, for example, by saying, everyone in the group, how are you doing today? What's on your mind? Like that little ritual helps build relationships, create some collegiality around people in the team. So those are some of the rituals that you might see in a meeting. Next, we have language, right? This is having shared language by saying, who's going to play devil's advocate? So everybody knows what devil's advocate is. Or let's take this conversation offline, or let's put that content in the parking lot. Those terms, offline, parking lot, that's shared language that creates a culture where everybody knows, okay, I know what that means. I don't have to ask. If you're new to an organization and you don't know what those words mean, it can be a little bit confusing. But as soon as you know, and you're kind of in the club now because you have shared language, and that's one of the elements of culture. So third is habits, right? It's very easy for us to get into habits that are not so helpful, but some of them are helpful. So some things you might see in a meeting, for example, is that the team leader always sits at the head of the table. That's just a habit, right? No one assigned that seat to them and said, you always have to sit there. It's just a habit that's developed. And when the leader sits at the head of the table, that says something about how they feel about their authority in the room, right? So for example, in my team meetings, sometimes I sit at the head of the table because we have virtual meetings and it's kind of the most clear seat for the camera to pick up, and I end up doing some of the meeting facilitation, so I want to be clearly seen. But I don't always sit there, and I try to rotate so that I'm not always sitting in that same spot, and we can rotate through who sits in that, quote, position of power. Next up are symbols. So you might see, with kids, you have like a talking stick or like a special ball that gets passed around. Those are some symbols that you might see in meetings, especially ones where you have an outside facilitator and you're talking through a very complex or highly, stuff that's like really emotional, where you use different kinds of symbols in the room to signify certain things. Like I'm wearing my inquiry hat versus I'm wearing my advocacy hat. And then the last one is norms. So using a parking lot to hold off-topic ideas, that's a norm. That's a shared practice that everyone has said, okay, we are all going to act in a certain way. Just like driving on the right side of the road here in the US is a norm. We can have norms that say we're always expecting the decision to be made by the team leader. That's just a norm. We've acknowledged that's how decisions get made in our team, and now we're all okay with that. So you can have different kinds of norms that create culture. Or we have a norm of always arguing with the boss, right? That's another norm that that team I was mentioning before has instituted. So if we go back to the title of this webinar, how poor meeting practices are sabotaging your organization's success, let's connect the dots. So part one is that if your culture isn't aligned with what you want or need to achieve success, it's going to show up in your meetings. So if you want to have a goal-oriented culture, if you want your people to be highly focused on achieving their goals, and yet your meetings are not achieving their goals, that's a problem, right? You need your meetings to be goal-oriented as well, because that's going to perpetuate this culture of getting things done, accomplishing your goals. Same thing if you want innovation to be a part of your core culture as a company. If you want to have people be really innovative, you need your meeting practices to align with a culture of innovation, where your meetings are open and exploratory and help move you forward and take into account customer feedback and big ideas, and meetings that are like crushing, soul crushing, that's not helping you create an environment of innovation. Now, the second piece is that meetings are one of the largest forms of waste in organizational life today. Right? I mentioned earlier the vast number of meetings we go to and hours that we spend in them, and that 1/3 are considered a waste of time. That is not only terrible for all the people sitting in those horrible meetings, but it's really constraining our productivity in so many ways, right? Lost time in those meetings, but it's also sabotaging us in other ways. So let's take a look at what that means. Let's talk about productivity. So a definition of productivity is the measure of efficiency in converting inputs into useful outputs. Right? Simply put now, this is how well are we accomplishing how much are we accomplishing given our resources? How well are we using our time and our energy and our resources to create something that's useful, to accomplish those goals? It's about how much you're getting done and how well you're getting it done, how quickly, how efficiently. So when meetings are well done, they really boost your productivity, because what they're doing is taking a group of people and creating synergy so that you can get more done in those few minutes, as a group in those 30 minutes than you would if you were all trying to do it alone. You either get a higher quality output, a better decision, greater alignment, more effectiveness, or you're doing something that would just take so much time if you had to go kind of person by person around in a loop. And we've all probably been part of those email chains where you're just like, oh my gosh, could we just have a meeting about this? Because I can't even follow what decision's being made anymore, right? That's where meetings shine. But it's also about the productivity that comes out of the meeting. Like, what happens when you sit in a really yucky meeting, right? So this is where meetings and culture kind of impact success. When you sit in a really crappy meeting, what you're doing is actually killing your employees' morale, right? You end up having low energy when you walk out of that meeting, right? You're in a bad mood. You can't think right. You're not focused, right? It's just leaving everybody feeling really down. I'm sure you've all experienced this, right? And morale often also leads to health issues, right? When you feel like you're sitting in that meeting and you have 500 other things to be doing, it makes you feel really stressed and frustrated, and all of that leads to like all kinds of health-related issues. And when you're stressed and you're not feeling your best, you're not working your best. You're not going to be working your most, efficiently. Of course, time, right? So time's always the critical input. So if you're wasting it in a meeting, you don't have it to be spending on other more important things. But then also technology. Having the right technology in your meetings to streamline the meeting process, to manage the follow-through, that also impacts success. So when you're sitting in a meeting and you have outcomes that are coming out, Mamie is going to follow up with our customer on A, B, and C, and she's going to put together the numbers for, next week's budget on X, Y, and Z. If our technology is not going to facilitate me to do that work, and instead now I have like my own notes and somebody else took notes, and then I have my to-do app that's separate, that's actually just making lots of little moments where things can fall through the cracks. And it's making me have to do a lot of extra work to streamline, or not even to streamline, but just do a lot of extra work to get to the ultimate result. And when your technology can streamline that, you not only free up brain power, but you free up time, and you've reduced the chances that the meeting's outcomes are going to end up kind of floating in outer space. And now you have much more likelihood that the technology is going to help you achieve what you want coming out of those meetings. So next up is clarity. When you walk out of a meeting and you're not sure what to do, or you think you know what to do, but you're not sure if everybody agrees with that, you either don't do anything, or worst case, even beyond that, is you do the wrong things. And that is a huge productivity waster. It's also just really frustrating, right? To be told, oh, that's not what we decided. So all that work you just did isn't useful. Like, that really sucks. That goes back to impacting morale, making you more frustrated, feeling like you wasted time. So having clarity coming out of your meetings is so critical. And then lastly, maybe surprisingly, is the importance of your boss. So there has been research done that shows the correlation between having a boss that you like and respect and your kind of desire to continue working and do your best work in that organization. When your boss drags you to meetings that are unproductive and you feel like your boss doesn't respect you and they're just wasting your time, that's actually draining your energy and draining you and not making you and not inspiring you to do your best work in this organization. So when you have bad meetings, you're basically killing everything on this page. You're killing your morale, you're ruining your health, you're wasting time, you're not leveraging technology, you're creating lack of clarity and people don't do the right work, and you're ruining that relationship between yourself and your employee. So if you've sat through bad meetings, you've probably felt these. And if you're running bad meetings, oh gosh, that's why we're here today. So culture eats strategy for breakfast. This is a statement by Peter Drucker, who is a management guru. And I love this statement because what he's saying is that you can have the best strategy, but if you don't have a culture that's going to support your implementation, you're going to die. Your organization is just not going to be that kick-ass, sorry, I shouldn't say that out loud, your kick-butt organization that it really should be, right? Because your culture is really what's executing on your strategy. Your people are what's executing on your strategy. So I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about one super important aspect of effective meetings, and that is the desired outcome. So desired outcome is the measurable result the meeting will achieve. This is so important. If you don't know what your meeting is going to achieve, you got some big problems. So what is all this? What is the desired outcome? How are we going to use this? So writing a desired outcome is really about figuring out not just why you're having the meeting, but what you're going to achieve. And when you know what you're going to achieve, you increase the likelihood of having a productive meeting. When you share that with other people, you're demonstrating respect for them. You're saying, this is why we're having this meeting, and I think you're an important player in this meeting. I think you need to be there for a specific reason because you're going to help contribute to this meeting objective, this meeting outcome. So you're creating a sense of respect. You're also opening the door for someone to say, hey, I'm not so sure that this meeting is the best use of my time because given the outcome you outlined, I'm not sure how I'm going to contribute. Or I don't think I have anything to add. So do you really need me there? If you don't know what the meeting is about, it's really hard to tell your boss you don't want to come. It's really hard to hear it if your team member says to you, and you're the boss, I don't think this meeting is a good use of my time. But if you've already said to them, this is what this meeting is achieved, you can actually now have a conversation with them and say, hey, tell me what you mean. Like, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is what I imagined for your role, or this is why I think you should be there. Tell me what you think. So it opens that door. And then thirdly, when you have a desired outcome, you can actually measure the success of your meeting. Did you accomplish what you set out to do or not? So how do you write a desired outcome? And after this, we're going to take a pause because I want to make sure I'm going through really fast. I want to make sure that everybody has questions or comments that we get to hear from all of you. So how do you write a desired outcome? You want to start with a noun. This is like the trickiest part, but it's also the most powerful part. It's too easy to say, why are we having this meeting? We're having this meeting to discuss the results of last quarter's social media, media plan. Or we're having this meeting to brainstorm ideas about next year, the next event's, fundraiser, or we're having this to review X, Y, and Z, right? Discuss, to review, to brainstorm. Those are great verbs, good actions, but they're not results. So instead, what you want to do is start with a noun. You want to have a list of something, and even better to say, we want to have 3 to 5 ideas, right? Not just a list of ideas, but a specific number of them. Or we want to have a decision, or we want to have built stronger relationships. We want those relationships to be enhanced. We want that final version completed. We want approval of something. So the way you can do this is to ask yourself a question. At the end of this meeting, we will have fill in the blank. If your desired outcome doesn't make sense, then you haven't quite gotten to a desired outcome. So here's an example. If I said, at the end of this meeting, we will have a discussion about the new brand strategy. That doesn't make sense. What I want to get to is something like, at the end of this meeting, we will have alignment on the new brand strategy direction. Or at the end of this meeting, we'll have a decision on the new brand strategy's direction. Or at the end of this meeting, we'll have a list of questions for the branding agency to help us further clarify the brand strategy. In each of those, alignment on direction, decision on direction, or a list of questions, I'm getting to something that's tangible, so that at the end of the meeting, we can say, did we accomplish this or not? So another way to test your desired outcome is to say, if we accomplish this at the end of our meeting, will that be success? Do I have what I need to move forward if we accomplish the desired outcome? This is important for 2 reasons. One, sometimes you write a desired outcome and then you realize that's not all you need. You actually missed something. You need something else. And it's okay to have a multi-pronged desired outcome. We need alignment on this information, and then we need a decision on this information. That's fine. But you want to make sure that the way you write your desired outcome gets you to whatever you need to move the work forward. Because after all, that's why you're having the meeting, is to move your work forward. The other reasons that it's important is because if you can't figure out a good desired outcome, you probably don't need to have that meeting at all. And you might find that you could do the same work or get, whatever result you're looking for through an email, through a shared Google Doc, through chatting with some people over Slack, but a meeting might not be the best way to get it. So you want to make sure that your desired outcome is leading to some meaningful outcome that will move the work forward. All right, pausing for a quick check-in because I just went through a ton of information. I didn't see any questions coming through the chat, so I'm hoping that either you're all hanging with me and not that you're super confused by everything I've just said. So can I get a little what's going on? Okay, thank you, making sense. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Again, if you have questions or if you want me to slow down and give more examples, just let me know. All right, so using your desired outcome. There are 3 times when you want to use your desired outcome. The first is before the meeting. Okay, as I mentioned, you have to tell people what the desired outcome is so that they can come to the meeting prepared. They feel respected, they know what they need to do. They're like, okay, I got it. I know why I'm going to this meeting, which also makes it so that when they walk in the door, they don't feel like, oh my gosh, another meeting, right? Instead, they're like, oh, I know what this meeting's about. Hopefully this is going to be really fun and interesting. So tell people beforehand. You can send it by email. You can put it in the calendar invitation. You can just chat it to them, whatever, just let them know. If you are not the meeting leader, you should ask whoever's leading the meeting, hey, I see we're having a meeting tomorrow on blah, blah, blah. I'm just wondering what you want to accomplish by the end of this meeting. You don't even have to use the words desired outcome. Just kind of ask them what do you want to accomplish in this meeting? Or what do you hope to get done by the end of this meeting? And see if they can articulate that to you. This is one really easy way to start introducing the idea without making it super scary to your team members. You can also say, I think this meeting's about X. My understanding is the plan is to decide on the timeline for our new project. Is that what you had in mind? So you can also serve it up to them if you think they'll be more receptive to that approach. But either way, the idea is that you want the group, especially the meeting leader, to know what you want to accomplish in the meeting. Secondly, start of the meeting. So everybody's really busy. You've all got a million things on your mind, right? You are definitely coming from doing something else when you walk into that meeting, right? You're either, if it's first thing in the morning, you're rushing from maybe dropping your kids off of school, running in the door, trying to get to that meeting. Maybe you're just checking email. Maybe you're walking down the hall and checking email, which I won't say that I do, but I do, right? Maybe you're coming from another meeting. Whatever you're doing, you're now entering to this meeting, and we cannot expect that people will remember and have it top of mind when they sit down that like, oh yeah, this is the meeting I'm in and this is what we're gonna do. So start your meeting by reminding everybody what you want to achieve, right? Get everybody's attention and say, okay, it's nice to see everybody. Here's what we're gonna do today. Our goal is to leave with that list of 3 to 5 ideas that our sub-team can then explore, right? Whatever it is, just tell everybody, this is why we're here today. So then everyone's like, oh yeah, now I know what this meeting's about and I'm ready to help achieve that goal. I'm ready to contribute to that outcome. You don't have to use those words, desired outcome, again, especially if you haven't introduced it to your team. It's a little bit of a wonky phrase, desired outcome. So feel free to say, this is the goal of the meeting, this is the objective, this is what we want to accomplish, whatever language feels comfortable for you. All right, lastly, revisit the desired outcome at the end. So you want to acknowledge and celebrate if you actually did it, whether you've achieved your desired outcome. So if you haven't achieved it, let's talk about that one first because it's a little trickier. If you haven't achieved your desired outcome, you want to acknowledge that too, because it means that something else needs to happen, right? It could mean another meeting. It could mean a follow-up by email. It could mean passing this on to whoever's next, even though it's unfinished. But you need to acknowledge that and figure out what the plan is. So one way you can do this is by kind of doing a little wrap up and saying, okay, so we're running out of time now, and our objective for today was to generate a list of those 3 to 5 ideas, and I think that we're still at like 7 from what I've captured. So here's what I propose that we do next. And you could say, I propose that we have another 30-minute meeting to snap the shut. You could say, I propose I send these out by email and we do online voting. You could say, I propose we pass these 7 on to the sub-team and their first thing of business will be getting it down to 3 to 5. Whatever it is. Or you can ask the group, how do you all suggest we keep going? But if you walk out of the door without having accomplished your desired outcome and you don't say anything, you're basically just perpetuating this sense that the meeting wasn't actually worthwhile. And you've left a lot of ambiguity. Remember we talked about clarity before? People don't know what to do next. It's kind of left hanging, and you get that like, oh, we're going to have another meeting about another meeting. So you want to make sure that you bring the meeting to a close, and if you haven't finished your desired outcome, figure out how you are going to. Now, if you did accomplish your desired outcome, celebrate it. Say, great work, everybody. I think we got to our objective, or I think we achieved our goal for today. Nice work. Make everyone recognize that their time was really well spent, that you know what you used that time for, so people walk out feeling, just feeling more positive. Now, if you have the stomach for it, because it's a little bit awkward, to be honest, it's great if you can do a little mini review. Whether you achieved your desired outcome or not, ask the group, hey, what could we do differently in our future meetings so that we can achieve our desired outcome? Or, what should we keep doing? Why was this meeting so great? What should we keep doing in the future? If you have the time and the ability and your group will stand it, take a couple of minutes at the end of a meeting, a great one or a terrible one, and just ask, like, what can we do differently? Or what should we keep doing to continue the success? And when you get your team to acknowledge things like, well, we started 15 minutes late, or we really wandered off track, and I feel like we lost some of that time because we were talking about something that's not relevant. It's great for the team to acknowledge that. It will help your meetings in the future be more effective. All right, so we're going to shift gears just a little bit and talk about how do you make the case for better meetings and better culture within your organization. Now, the change process is often difficult. We've all probably experienced that if you've tried to change yourself, like going to the gym or eating healthier, right? Whatever it is, we know change is hard. We also know that change is more likely to stick and it's easier when you follow certain processes. So here are a couple of practices that you can use to introduce these kind of effective meetings and things that you can do to help sustain your success, introduce and sustain success. So the first is alignment. So you want to get other people in your organization to recognize the problems of ineffective meetings. So raise this issue with them. You cannot be the only one who's feeling this, right? You can't be the only one who's feeling frustrated by the lost productivity and the misaligned culture. But other people might not be either as aware of it, it's not top of mind for them, or they kind of think, well, this is just how work gets done, right? My whole life I've sat through unproductive meetings. I think this is how work gets done, right? My experience was the opposite, right? I mentioned in the beginning, I grew up in my family business where we pretty much only had very productive meetings. And when I went out into a nonprofit, I was like, whoa, now I'm shocked. These meetings are terrible. So most people don't have that kind of moment where they realize it could be different. So you need to get everyone to kind of recognize and buy into this idea that meetings are a problem and you can do something about it. So one way to do this is to have a meeting about your meetings. And we wrote a blog article about this, so we'll share that article with you in the follow-up email, and it walks you through kind of how do you have a meeting to help people surface the challenges of your meetings and generate ideas and buy-in for making some changes. The second thing you should do is share resources. So one of the reasons that change is so hard is because we have a fear of the unknown, right? The terribleness that I know is better than the risks of what I'm going to have to do to get to some better state. So if it feels overwhelming to change your meetings, you're like, it's going to be so much work. I don't know what this really means. There's all these new practices and new technology, new blah, blah, blah. It's really overwhelming. And people are like, you know what? I'd rather just stick with our terrible meetings because I don't want to put the effort in to make changes. But that's only because they don't really know what they're talking about, right? They don't really understand what it means to make the changes. So you want to make sure that people have the resources and that you've demystified what these effective practices are. So you can have them watch this webinar. You can share some of our blog articles. You can tell them what you learned in that meeting on your meetings. You can teach them about desired outcome. Teach them about this one little practice and the huge impact that it can have. So just start to make it feel less scary and a little bit more like, oh, that doesn't sound so bad. Give people the resources. The third one is to partner. So find an accountability partner and support each other. Find someone who is on your team or in your organization who is going to help hold you accountable to making these changes, and also be there to kind of think through, how do you handle somebody who's pushing back? Because there's always somebody on the team who's like, I don't care what you give me, I'm not excited about this. So you might need to have someone to talk through or to brainstorm. You might want to find somebody who is a good influencer on the team, somebody who's been a change champion before and really gets this process of change. So find people in your organization or in your team who can partner with you to help perpetuate these changes and promote them and to be a support for you and for your other colleagues. And then lastly is to take action. So introduce some changes that you have control over. So if you're the meeting leader, this is something like using a desired outcome. You have control over that, whether or not your team even knows what you're doing. And there are times where you can do this in parallel with these other three strategies. So you can start to introduce little changes that you have control over while you're also raising the issue and giving people resources and finding partners. There are other times for some organizations and some cultures where you can't even broach the subject yet. You're either not in the right position, you're brand new to the organization, you don't feel like you can rock the boat yet. Whatever it is, you can always act. You can always make sure that your meetings are productive meetings. And you can do little things like asking a colleague who is leading a meeting, hey, this is what I think this meeting is about. Is this what you were planning to accomplish too? So those are your own actions that you can control, and you can always do those. Now, when you're introducing this to other people, you want to think through lots of different approaches. Some of us like to hear the numbers. We want to know what are the costs, of bad meetings, how much time is wasted, what could we get for that, how much is the training going to cost, all those things. Some people want to know the benefits, what's it going to be like, what's going to be so much better once we've addressed this. Some people want to hear specifically numbers, how many meetings are wasted in our organization, how much time would we get back, those kinds of things. Some people just want to have a demystified. They just need to know, like, just tell me what we're going to do. Like, you're the boss. I'll do what you tell me to do. Just tell me what to do. Other people want to know it's an experiment, and they want to have some freedom to say, hey, if this doesn't work, I want to know this is not permanent. And, we want to try some things and see. And of course, almost everybody wants to know what's in it for me. So you always want to make that case. How is your life going to be better if you go to more productive meetings? If you make an effort to write a desired outcome, how is your life going to be better? So as we are coming to a close here, meetings are a microcosm of your company, right? We started talking about how meetings are a reflection of how you run your organization. So if you want your organization to achieve its potential, you need your meetings and your culture to align with the vision and the values that you have, and to be highly productive, and those meetings to be highly impactful. So I'd love for you guys to tell me, based on everything we just went through really quickly, what are some of the things that you want to try first? And I have some ideas to help you. So write them in the chat box. Is there one thing that you're super excited to try first, right? Could be, I'm going to go through all my meetings on my calendar and, figure out what the desired outcomes are. Or I'm going to, have a meeting about my meetings. Or I'm going to start my next meeting, or I'm going to ask my colleague for the desired outcome of that meeting. So what are some of the things that you think you want to try? And I'll do a little shameless promotion here. I think your next step should be, I'm going to invite my colleagues to attend the next 2 webinars with Silver Lining. Awesome. Lauren said she's going to start modeling the desired outcome for her meetings. That's great. Oh, and she's already invited her colleagues to attend the next meeting, the next webinar series, which is awesome. Awesome. Corinne is also, she's going to make sure her meetings have desired outcomes. This is great. And I'd love to hear from you all afterwards too. You can always send us emails at Meteor and tell us how it worked or what challenges you had. We want to know. We're here to help you. So as we wrap up this formal presentation, we're going to move into some Q&A. We have about 10 minutes left. So if you have questions about anything I covered today, if you have questions about Meteor and how we can work with you, if you have questions about Silver Lining and how Silver Lining can work with you, now is the time to put all of those questions into the chat box. So Alexandra, we made it to the end, just in the nick of time. Oh, I don't think we can.
I'm unmuting myself. Okay, right. Hi guys, that was really awesome. I'm, as you're talking, I'm feverishly writing down a zillion ideas about how we can, improve our meetings at Silver Lining. And there was just so many great points in there. So thank you so much, Mimi, for that fantastic presentation, and lots of really practical advice and things that we can actually implement today into making our meetings better tomorrow. Question for you. So we know that you are a current SLAPster, Mimi, and I'm just wondering, if, we've got 7 minutes left, and I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about maybe why you decided to join Silver Lining. What did you feel like you needed help with in your business, and why did you choose Silver Lining to help you achieve that?
Sure, absolutely. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I started my business about 3.5 years ago, and we've gone through a lot of different iterations of kind of who we are as a business, what we're trying to do, what our products and services are. And one of the things that I know that I struggle with as the entrepreneur is not having always clear plans and being able to say no to the things I need to say no to in order to focus on the things I have to say yes to. And what I loved about Silver Lining when I was learning about it is that you create this action plan that's based on your goals, and then you have support to execute it. So you have that accountability. You have a platform online where it says, these are all things you're going to do this month that you agreed to. And now you have someone who's holding you accountable to them, so that I'm kind of basically forced to get those things done and not be super opportunistic, which I tend to be when I'm like, oh, there's a conference coming up. Can I speak there? That's great. But if that conference isn't the right conference, it doesn't matter how much I love speaking. It's not the right use of my time. So that's one of the things I really loved, is that you really just get into the, these are your goals, these are the actions, and now execute on it.
That's so great. And so what would you, in every way, you're like our ideal client, you've been in business for the right amount of time, your revenue's over that mark, and you're really starting to understand your business, and it's, you're at that point for serious growth. What would you say to a business owner who is interested in growing their business?
I would say, number one, it never feels like the right time to do anything. I mean, I feel like this as a parent too, like it's always just, there's like so many things going on and so many questions. And it constantly just feels like I don't even have time to like sit back and think. And now is probably the best time when you're feeling that to invest in creating your silver lining action plan. Like, it's taking the time to go through and articulate out really who is our core audience, what are the goals that we want to achieve over what timeline, what are the activities that we're going to need to get there. Like, that planning time is so critical. And it never feels like a good time to do it. So just do it now. Like, that's it. And I write about that too in my own blog, that you just have to, right? You have to just find the time to plan. Same thing with a meeting, right? When you're just moving, and you think, I don't have time to plan this agenda, that's actually setting yourself up for a bad meeting. So planning is always worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everything today, Mimi, and for the information you've imparted on us. For everyone in the webinar, don't forget to join us for round 2 next week. Same day, same time. So that would be June 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The topic next week is how to design a meeting that actually achieves results. And that will be with Mimi again. So thank you so much, Mimi, from Meteor. We're looking forward to seeing you next week and hearing more about how we can have meetings that achieve results that we need. For everyone else on the webinar today, we've got a couple more minutes. I just want to let you know that the next hour or so, you're going to be receiving an email from us at Silver Lining, just thanking you for joining us. And also, shameless, we're going to offer you a little promotion. So anyone who responds to that email within the next 24 hours will receive a promo code to view our SLAP Bootcamp course and participate in it. It's a 3.5-hour long course. The cost is normally $299, but because you participated in the webinar today, with your response to the email that you'll receive in the next hour, we'll give you a promo code to be able to view that bootcamp absolutely free. Again, it's 3.5 hours long. It really goes through the entire Silver Lining SLAP methodology from beginning to end. Is a very comprehensive course on what needs to happen to actually build an action plan. So look for that email in your email boxes. And again, thank you so much to Mimi for joining us today. And thank you everyone for joining the webinar and taking the time out this last hour to spend your time with us here at Silver Lining and with Meteor in SLAP School. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you all. See you all next week.